Look at the way I've been treated lately, especially by the media. No politician in history, and I say this with great surety, has been treated worse or more unfairly.
Well, look at that. It looks like President Trump might have been right all along, and now there's a new study to prove it. Harvard University just analyzed how the mainstream media has been covering the president's first 100 days, and the results are, well, not surprising at all. 80% of all media coverage of President Trump was negative. Now compare that to how the media treated previous presidents in their first 100, and the bias against Trump couldn't be more obvious. Joining me now to discuss, it's former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino. All right. Let us discuss. You watch the news. You are a great big consumer of
all the time.
All sorts of news and ways the president has been covered. You covered various presidents as a Secret Service agent.
Yeah.
So you have a level of objectivity. But as a consumer, what do you see?
You know, the single most destructive force right now in American politics is the left-wing media. I really mean that. I say that with no reservation whatsoever. You know, the coin of the realm for them now, I don't want to say is lies. They don't lie often. I know that'll shock people. But what they do is they distort. The coin of the realm is distortion. It's how you portray the facts. And a perfect example was this thing about the classified information in the Oval Office between Trump and the Russians. Yeah. Okay, was the decision imprudent? Maybe, I don't know. The point is, he's the president. He can classify or declassify whatever he wants. The story, though, was portrayed as Trump being an oaf. Meanwhile, Obama had done the exact same thing, and the story was written as if this was some kind of grand experiment between Obama and the Russians. It's just a shame.
And it's interesting because President Clinton, when he ascended into the presidency, his first 100 days, the negative coverage was about 60%.
Right.
Around the same for President Bush, W. It was 57%, 40% negative, only 40% negative for President Obama.
Right.
But again, over 80% negative here. And it's interesting because the only news organization which hits just about the 50th
That was Fox.
mark. It's Fox News.
Right, and meanwhile, the liberals go wild. You mentioned go out to New York on 6th and say to a liberal, what do you think of Fox? They'll go wild. They'll have a meltdown.
Yep.
That's the odd thing about this. And, you know, it just goes to show you, too, with the way these scandals work and they portray them, right? With Benghazi, we had body bags that came home. I mean, sadly, there wasn't evidence. There was real people who had sacrificed their lives, that something bad had gone tragically wrong. Yet when conservatives mentioned the story after about a 2-week media cycle, where they mentioned it lightly to make sure they did their homework, they said, oh, well, you guys are just conspiracy theorists.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
You're keeping this story going. But Kennedy, to this day, there are answers out there about Benghazi. Nobody knows. If you have them, you know, tweet me or text me. So, to this night, nobody knows where Obama was on that night in the White House. Was he up? Was he? Nobody knows. That's fine. The media wants to let it go. But now with Trump, we have no evidence at all. Dianne Feinstein, Democratic senator, said herself, there is zero evidence right now of collusion with the Trump-Russia thing, yet the story headlines the nightly news and every other network every day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see because, you know, the president called this, but how much of that is his personality and how he reacts to perceived enemies? And if he weren't such a reactor, would the press still find 80% of the time that they would cover him negatively? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, is he bombastic? Of course. I mean, I'm a Queens guy. He's a Queens builder. My father was a building inspector. My father said to me a while ago, he goes, Dan, Donald Trump is like every builder I ever met from Queens. These guys have to deal with the mob, trying to shake them down, New York City regulators, who are probably worse than the mob, unions. He said these guys are at it every day dealing with the toughest people in the world. They want things done. They get it done. They're bombastic. That's their personality. But Kennedy, the whole idea, you know, we're opinion people, okay? I'm not a journalist. I do opinion. When you're a journalist, you're supposed to report the facts. You're not supposed to be reacting to the man's personality. You're supposed to be reacting to his principles and his legislative agenda. Yeah. But that's not what they're doing. They're totally reacting to his big Queens builder personality.
And what should be most disconcerting is there is an active campaign to erode the truth and the search for the truth on the left. That it all becomes this blob of subjectivism that means nothing, and it's almost impossible to find out what is absolutely real. But you have faith in the president, and, you know, there are a lot of viewers who share that faith. Thank you for being here tonight, Dan.
Happy to do it. Happy to be here.
Very good. Still to come, A lot of drama this week in Washington. If your mind is spinning over the Russia investigation, you got to stick around. Watters World is going to break it down for you in a way, oh, trust me, you have not heard this. Then, is it a bow or is it a bend? Your comments pouring in on the debate. Stay here.